It's summertime, and you know what that means. That you should check out Glamour by My Son the Doctor. This is the most summer album I've heard all year. Do yourself a favor, roll down the windows, cruise the highway, and just crank this record. Some bright, sunny, vibrant, high energy indie slacker rock out of Brooklyn. You get some more punk and garage elements at points, but mostly some solid indie rock. A lot of clever wordplay, a fair bit of weird word choices that are expertly selected to roll off the tongue phonetically, except when they abruptly bring everything to a stop, like on the chorus of Barry Bonds, which was funny the first time I heard it, but quickly becomes awkward and embarrassing anytime I'm listening to this record out loud somewhere. Overall, fantastic record. Very energetic, very catchy. You gotta get it in the rotation before the weather cools down too much. I can't imagine listening to this in January, so now is the time because it's summer rock. And I give this a whopping 8.2 pink bananas out of 10. Another great release is NYC freak rock band This Holy Rodeo with their EP This Holy Rodeo presents This Holy Rodeo's first extended play presented by This Holy Rodeo, a This Holy Rodeo presentation. They are coming out the gate hot with a fantastic debut EP. This thing is very dense and progressive, and it feels like an album's worth of ideas compressed into an EP with the lightning speed that would entail, right? It's just 2x, it's coming at you. It starts out with a Twilight Zone like monologue about fascist psychology and territorial dogs that slowly builds into some theatrical elements before reaching the kind of frenetic shredding that characterizes most of this record. I could easily see the closer, March of the Breeders, getting on someone's nerves because it sounds like a CD skipping for half of the song's length. Ricochet, 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 quiverful, 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 quiverful. It is too fast to sing along to, even though it will be immediately stuck in your head after one listen, so you'll want to sing along. But a lot of the lyrics are tongue twisters. Say quiverful 10 times fast. I bet you can. Quiverful, 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 quiverful. Can't be done. Can't be done. However, I like the arguably annoying elements of it, barring the fact that at a few points in that last track, the vocals are mixed a bit low. Overall, fantastic release. Some of my favorite music this year. I give it 8 Habsburg Jaws out of 10. Another cool EP is Apiary by Gingerbee, a shimmery, summery, romantic sunshine daydream of a record. Allegedly, this is emo. I kind of get what they mean, maybe more in their first EP, but I listened to it a couple times and that word never popped in my head on its own. If anything, I'd compare it to the meme about Animal Collective being screamo. After the fact, I heard it described as emo. I was like, okay. If they want to prove their emo status to me, they could break up after like 2 EPs because nothing is more emo than that. But please don't do that because this is a fantastic, eclectic EP with some fiddle, some chiptune, sax, but mostly some solid indie rock or emo, I guess. Twinkle daddies, if we still call it that. BMO, lots of shredding, bit of screaming, in between the loungier bits. I will give this EP 7 love bugs out of 10. Up next, we have the even more freewheelin' Jeffrey Lewis LP. Lewis is a longtime favorite of mine, and his visual arts and comics will be covered in the next Art to Heart sister series of Avant Garden. So, indie folk rock singer-songwriter is back with another record musing about creating meaning in an absurd materialist world, relaxing, vibey, wistful, and lovely tones. I always love the keys on a Jeffrey Lewis record. But the real star is always the lyrics. We have a collection of songs about the inevitability of pain, struggles of dealing with aging parents, anxiety and depression, and many things that are particular to artists. Relaxation hits home to me, a song about mildly toxic productivity, but functional. But functional. I mean, Jeff's got a mean output, and I respect that. It is probably healthy to be able to relax. I don't want to relax either, though. That's the thing. Relaxation is my nemesis, is not a nihilist. That's just how I exist. The onset of guilt when trying to relax is why I personally lug around big sketchbooks to hang out with friends, so I can both enjoy the time fully and drink on the job. Jeff is a musician's musician and an artist's artist. He speaks to the kinds of troubles that artists and musicians have in his work very often. He also often walks this line of silly and serious on tracks like Tylenol PM, where your drug of choice affects your creative output and says something about you as a person. And Jeff's a Tylenol PM type guy. He just wants a good night's sleep and to get up in the morning and go. Just Fun is probably my favorite track from this record, an existential response to the depressive inertia of the album opener. You know, why get out of bed? Why attempt to maintain your relationships? Why try to book shows? Why try to draw pictures? It's fun, and that's a good enough reason. Just Fun is what I would call a tattoo, Lightning Lewis specialty, a song that reminds you of something you don't want to forget, like a tattoo you get to remember something, to live a certain way, or whatever. These kinds of songs are popular in folky, punky circles and in anyone being very direct and very sentimental. I also really like DCB and ARS. This song was written for David Cloud Bergman of the folksy indie rock band Silver Jews, who was apparently friends with Jeff and suggested this song idea to him. And it is a very neat idea. David's desire to go on a romantic crime spree with a girl he knows named Amy Rose. It's cool, that's a cool idea. Bergman sadly died in 2019, and Lewis is known to sit on songs for years before taking them to the studio, so one have to wonder if Bergman was alive to hear it, or if this was a tribute to a late friend. 100 Good Things doesn't click so much for me, but it's all right in the context of the album. I don't skip it. And it's another tattoo. It may be a very special song in someone's heart, somebody who needs a reminder to think about the positives in their life. And that is the kind of sentimentality that I love to see from Jeff, because I saw an interview like forever ago where he talked about how he wouldn't write a song like Heavy Heart anymore because it would be too vulnerable and weird. You have a certain freedom as an artist when nobody is checking out what you do. Like this, nobody watches this. Overall, I give this record 7.3 mischievous and flirty Amy Roses out of 10. Up next, we have Al Carpenter's Greatest Heads. The cover is a riff on Remain in Light, and the title is a riff on Talking Heads. Greatest Heads was a very anticipated release here on the Avant Garden. After a string of mind-blowing, bizarre singles, I was very eager to hear the final result, and it is a solid record, even though the singles do feel noticeably stronger than the rest. Like, they're in the same league, but you could just tell which ones are the singles, Mundo Chabala, Worm City, and We Are All Carpenters. They're highlights, showcasing a kind of structured, dark, organic audio collage type music that seeks to be genreless, or to be what they call post-genre punk. Not literally punk, but like punk as in a style suffix like core. I think they've succeeded at genrelessness about as much as one can. Think of very few comparisons. Pear Ubu, Sun City Girls. There's a lot of freak folk and free jazz elements. The track We Are All Carpenters is very impactful, and in the days following its release, I had that song on loop. What a great song! Very trippy in a sort of grimy, dirty way, like the whole record. And the lyrics made me think a bit. I appreciate the imagery of God the Carpenter, and this song extrapolates a bit on that. We, humanity, have built the world, and it puts forward this idea that collectively we have failed. And there's all this ugliness in the sound that makes you sit with that feeling. That is human society a failure? Did we all fail to create something positive? And that's a fair point and perspective. And there are many things that call into question the success of humanity as a species and all that we've done collectively. The power structures we've built approve and facilitate starving children and bombing hospitals. My optimistic silver lining would be if most people were in control rather than an elite evil few, a lot more would get done to address these kinds of problems. I think most people are revolted by that, but maybe just not rich people. Now you may be thinking, my coworkers are annoying or something. A lot of people, they're very angry that minorities just exist, and I would wonder what those people would be like if education wasn't being destroyed, if they weren't being bombarded with racist propaganda, and if they were being taught and educated in how to bring a sense of curiosity and wonder to this world that is desperately needed. And so I believe that at their heart, people are good, and those people are good, even though they're bad. But there is a concerted effort to corrode their hearts, minds, and souls uh, to hatefulness because, look that way. Don't look at the billionaires. Look at the Mexican child. Look at the Palestinian child. They're the ones ruining everything. This record is a response to two things: Adorno's dictum that to write poetry after Auschwitz is barbaric, and the fact that there is another current genocide going on. Like I said, We Are All Carpenters addresses this in a way that I think works really well. But the one song I actively dislike on this record is Stop the Genocide. It just sounds weird. Like they aren't going to stop because they heard a weird whisper on an experimental album, Ask Them Nicely. Now, some portion of this record was recorded live in Germany where anti-genocide speech can be very harshly penalized. So maybe that's why it's kind of stilted, but I don't, maybe that went into the specific phrasing, but I don't know. Am I alone in this? Is that the worst song on the record? Is that the only bad song on the record? Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Anyway, a year or two back, I was with some folks working on protest signs for trans rights, and I was like, oh, I have a couple sentences in mind, most effective, shortest, easiest to read sentences targeted towards transphobes, specifically to convince the people who would need convincing. Vaguely religious themed, that would appeal to those most likely to be bigoted. So at this little think session, I was making signs for the bigots. I was trying to talk to the bigots. And I ran the ideas by my friends, and one said, you ain't gonna convince anyone in 3 words. What you can do is help people feel less alone and help motivate those already on our side. That's more something you could do as one of many strategies. And I was like, you're right. That is a fair point. That's a good point. So I changed my strategy just a little bit. and I dressed up like SpongeBob. I imagine maybe that brightened some trans people's day or something. I'm just an artist. I can't really save the world, but that's something I can do is maybe commiserate or make someone smile or whatever. My point with this story is I wish he didn't address Netanyahu in his track. It makes song as a medium feel so ineffectual when I think it serves some valuable purposes. And the folks who worked on this record have a gift, a skill set that they can use to express their ideals to others and form a scene and be part of a scene and process the pain of living in this time, make others feel less alone, um, fundraise for human rights organizations. Not saying that they haven't done these things, but you can't talk mass murders out of a killing spree. And I'm never more acutely aware of that than when somebody actually tries to reason with or plead with evil. So I don't know, maybe that song is thought provoking, but it's the only song on the record where I'm not really, really enjoying myself because overall, I think this is a fantastic record. Some of the best music I've heard this year, for sure. A serious, serious contender for the championship belt. The championship belt. Clocking in at 8.2 Karpenters out of 10. And last but not least, we have a new K Records release, Word on the Street by Elle Barbara's Black Space. Sources about Barbara are often in French and reference performances that I can't find online, so getting context on her was difficult. But one thing I have gathered is that Elle Barbara is eccentric. She's marrying herself sometime this month. Congrats. She does experimental theater. She's been known to breastfeed hunks and soy face at Madonna on stage. So I wasn't sure what to make of the lyrics on this project. Are they metaphorical? Are they straightforward? What is her opinion on the themes of this record? Um, is it merely an anti-capitalist metaphor? I was getting a lot of alien conspiracy and uh, anti-capitalist infernalist Christianity on this record, especially from songs like Hitler, Satan, and Associates, LLC, which always makes me think of that weird shit post from Trump about Satan being gay for Elon and DeSantis or whatever.
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay. I happen to know every single one of you has a secret gay lover hidden in your closet.
Guys, can we please just calm down?
American politics is so cooked. What the Anyway, I looked into what Barbara was actually intending to communicate, and apparently it was inspired by the quintessentially Quebecois conspiratorial graffiti of André Serouille, who has spent many years putting up warnings of the supposed satanic nature of Kraft foods.
So we'll pay for that, not more politics. And, in terms of Israel, the U.S. spends billions of dollars on Israel.
Serouille is often called an artist, and there's certainly some graphic design going on, but it raises a certain question I run into pretty often. Are instructional diagrams art? Are spiritual contraptions art? If spiritual diagrams are art, are scientific diagrams art? I don't know. This is something to think about. People call Serouille an artist, but I'm not sure he would call himself that. If his warnings are art, are stop signs art? Are energy guides art? Like, I guess a stop sign is art, but you would only call it that in a conversation like this. You wouldn't go around calling the person who designed it an artist. Would you? Like, would you? I don't know. Anyway, word on the street, El Barber's Black Space is a space for black musicians to play in a way that isn't dictated by preconceived notions of how black music should sound. And that some black artists, I imagine, could find constricting at times or all the time. Over the course of 8 years, El Barbara worked in her basement studio while on government assistance, and she succeeded in putting together a very high quality, unusual, but accessible record. Very much worth your time. I give it 7 vengeful alien deities out of 10. That's all, but I would like to remind you to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And tell me, what have you been listening to this summer in the comments? And what's your album of the year so far? What deserves the title, the championship belt of album of the year? Come on now, let me know. And if these releases were animations, what would they be? I think Greatest Heads would be something by Hans Fankmeyer.
En el mundo chabola, una inhumación. Acuérdate del misterio del montículo, un túmulo de anillo. Yo entendía los paseos compartidos en los parques. Hay una gran diferencia entre el acto físico de recorrer el terreno propio de la fábrica